Welcome to the Direct Line, powered by 10Bet. I'm Nico Kritsiotis. Coming up on today's show, we'll chat to Naqeeb Munshi, budding young commentator of South Africa. He's the latest to add to the commentating ranks. He's been commentating for a couple of years now. We'll find out how his profession is going. We'll have a heart-to-heart with him in a moment. Also, Cohen Greaves took away the prize last weekend in our competition. He won 2,500 Rand worth of 10Bet betting vouchers. He out-tipped me. He tipped 2 winners out of his 3 horses. I tipped 0. We'll find out how that transpired last weekend. And we'll also look ahead to this weekend's winner. 500 Rand up for grabs and 10Bet betting vouchers. All you have to do is to send your name and mobile number to the email address, which we'll provide you on the show a bit later on. And coming up in Nico's notebook later on, we've got the issue of a couple of objections in the past couple of weeks that was similar but different in the outcome. Also, we'll take a look at what's happening with the 3-year-old ratings here in Johannesburg after the running of the Gauteng Guineas at the beginning of February. It's not looking good for the handicappers out there because everything's been thrown awry by the various appeals that have been put on the table. That's all coming up on the Direct Line, powered by 10Bet. Well, our special guest today is Naqeeb Munshi. He joined me in the commentary box in Johannesburg a few years ago when he started off as a trainee, and now he's a budding commentator. He's on his way, and he's called in excess of 2,000 races already in a short period of time. Naqeeb, welcome to our studio, and thanks very much for joining me on the show.
Thanks for having me, Nico. As you know, I'm a big fan of the show. Watch almost every episode, and thanks for having me.
Well, I wanted you to come on to tell everyone what it was like about an outsider getting into horse racing, because we didn't know of you. Let's go 5 years back. But when did you start following racing?
It was about 2015, actually, so relatively late in life. I know a lot of people start following from their juveniles. I was probably about 12, 13.
And how come you came across it in 2015?
The Durban July of 2015, actually. There was a horse called Legal Eagle that I really liked. At that stage, I wasn't into the form and things. I liked his colours. They were green. Green was my favourite colour. So
absolutely.
I took a bet with my grandfather, who's now late. And I won about $20, and that's when the bug bit. From there on, the next day, straight to Turfentine Racecourse for the Sunday meeting.
And how was your first time at the races?
Very good. You were commentating on that day.
Was I?
And that's probably why you're now my favourite commentator.
Thank you.
But it was exhilarating.
Yeah. And from there, what was it? It wasn't necessarily the betting. It was just the excitement of the day.
Correct.
It wasn't necessarily about the betting and the winning. You enjoyed the actual racing part of it. And then when did you become interested in the actual commentating side of things? Did you just enjoy listening to the commentaries?
Always enjoyed listening to the commentaries. And then when it was lockdown time in COVID, when I used to get bored, I used to just commentate off the TV. And then when that competition opened up that 4Racing had, I decided to just try my luck and enter. And then within 2 months, I got an email saying, just come in, let's have a chat. And then I started calling the next day, actually, into a tape recorder.
Okay, and when we met you, obviously, we didn't know you from a bar of soap, so we said, well, look, come in and join. And the normal thing is when we do have commentators that want to commentate, is we put them through a procedure whereby you mock call.
Yes.
So they're actual races, but no one's hearing you, and you're commentating as if you're actually live. And what was that experience like? Because obviously you'd get judged on those to see how you were progressing.
Yes, so my first one was, I can't remember the winner. Obviously, I only remember my first live commentary, but it was the 27th of January of 2023, so roughly 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was very exciting, actually, to actually call a race through the binoculars. And I know it was up the straight, so obviously up the straight it's a bit difficult to call the first 100 meters with binoculars because they're running at you head on. But we got through it.
Yeah. So just to let everyone know out there, when I started commentating, which is many moons ago, there was no TVs. Races weren't shown live on television. So therefore, you had to rely solely on binoculars to commentate, and you had to read a race through the binoculars, which means you had to know all the colors. But the greatest thing about it, Naqeeb, was those days people only used to hear the live commentaries. They never used to see it. Nowadays, with the TV there, it changes the complexion completely, because if you muck up or if you mess up, there's people out there watching that can see what you're commentating on, and they can see that you're talking rubbish.
Correct, and I like using the binoculars. And at Fairview, you can see the difference in your angle compared to the TV angle, because you're calling horse in third.
Yeah,
it's actually in fourth on the TV, so you can see the discrepancies in the two views. Yeah. Although I think binoculars are probably more accurate than the TV.
Well, the greatest thing about binoculars is that it gives you a different perspective completely.
Yes.
So you get to see how horses are actually traveling.
Correct.
And it's the art of commentating. And I believe that every commentator, whether or not you rely on the TV, should be able to, just in case, call through binoculars. Because what happens if you're watching the TV and suddenly the TV goes off and you've got nothing to refer to? If you can't commentate through binoculars, you're stuffed. So that's why we teach all our commentators that certainly come through the Joburg ranks. I'm not sure about other provinces, but certainly through the Joburg ranks, you have to know how to commentate through a set of binoculars. And for that reason, you went out on a buying spree and you said, let me get me the best set of binoculars. And in fact, now I actually use yours.
It's my best pair so far. I mean, I started with a 12x50, probably like a 30-year-old pair, which I got from my late grandfather. And there's a problem with the one lens, so it's not that clear, but I still used to use them. End up with headaches afterwards, but anyway. Yeah. And then I got that other 12x50 pair, which I bought the Vortex brand, which was pretty good. And I've upgraded to 15, which is probably the best, and I'm probably my last pair.
Yeah. Although I venture to say that I'm always, whenever I go into electronic shops, I always tend to gravitate towards where they've got the binoculars and try and test them out to see. But the problem with going to these shops is that you can't see far in a shop.
Yeah, exactly.
You actually have to go outside to see how far the binoculars actually reach. But that said, it's a great feeling to be able to commentate a race. So it gives you a great thrill. And for me, even after doing it for nearly 40 years now, you still get the great feel about being able to do it, because not everyone can do it. It's actually a talent.
Correct. And there's a new feeling of excitement for every race. It's not the same for every race. Sometimes there's not so exciting races because the horse is won by 10 lengths and it's cleared away from the field. But it's still exciting seeing a horse win that well and the ability of that horse.
And sometimes you get big fields and sometimes you get small fields. Now, people would say out there that if you commentate on a race with only 3 horses versus a race with 20 horses, that it's probably easier to do a race with 3 horses. But that's actually not the case.
No, it's quite the contrary. I mean, I called a 3-horse race the other day.
That's what I was asking.
It was actually... It's pretty boring, actually, because it's just 3 horses and you can't go deep in the home straight. You're just calling the 3 horses all the time. And we like to go maybe 4 or 5 horses in the home straight. And in a 20-horse field, that makes it... Obviously, there's more colors to remember in a 20-horse field, but that's not so much a problem for us. And it's just more exciting having a stampede at the line compared to just 3 horses.
Well, just tell people out there they're uninitiated. In order to commentate a race, we learn the colours that the jockey's wearing as the horse's name. And after that race is finished and you go on to the next race, you do exactly the same for however many races there are. So that came pretty naturally to you, learning the colours of the jockeys and memorising the horse's name?
Yeah, it came pretty easily to me, surprisingly, because I was never good at remembering things in school. But bring me some horse racing colours and I'll remember that.
Yeah. And as you call more races, so you get more and more confident as time goes on. Looking at the different countries, you must watch a lot of racing out of South Africa. Which other commentators do you enjoy? What other countries do you enjoy the racing that comes from?
So Dubai is probably my favourite at the moment. I really like Dubai racing, and our mate Pat Comerford is the caller down there, and he's very good. I enjoy his enthusiasm. A bit of Richard Hoyles and Mike Catamol in the UK.
Good. And the Hong Kong guy is good.
Yeah, Mark McNamara is very good.
He's very good and very talented too. For me, I definitely prefer the European commentators to the American. That's just a personal preference. Correct. Because I think it's just that we gravitate, or we lean much towards their racing. Racetracks you've called at so far?
Only the 3, Turfentine, the Vaal and Fairview, all the tracks that they got at the courses. Poly track at Fairview is probably the most exciting because they go at a fast pace and it's almost always a stampede at the line, so it keeps you on your toes and it's nice and challenging. So that's probably my favourite course to call at.
Okay, and in terms of horses, I know you mentioned Legal Eagle that got you into it, and you always remember the first horse that got you interested. What about current horses that are running, what you're most excited about in terms of seeing them run?
So Alan Greef's got some talented horses, which I really like. Obviously, My Best Shot is one of my favorites. He hasn't really done much outside of province, but he cleans them up in PE. And then he's got those two fillies, Another Dance for Me and Golden Palm, who've done well outside of province. And Golden Palm, obviously, contesting the Triple Tiara here in Joburg. And she's been doing well so far. So those are like really some horses that keep you in the game, you know?
Yeah. And then now, following racing, commentating is one thing, but you're also keen now study of form. You started studying form and getting the hang of it now. That's in order to make a prediction on what's going to win the race. Yeah. Ultimately, out there, as you know, with our competition, which you'll help me with in a short while, it's not easy to tip winners, especially if you're told to only give one horse in a race that you think is going to win. It's amazing how few winners are tipped on a day by any individual. You can come up with zero sometimes.
Yes, exactly. There's some races that can be clear cut, obviously, but it's not always the case. About 99% of the time, it's not the case. There's always other horses with chances, and that's why racing is competitive.
Yeah, and there's a lot of tipsters out there. The advent of social media has created the impression that every second person out there knows they're racing and can tip to people. So you've got everyone coming out from every nook and cranny to tip, and people don't realize exactly how hard it is. Just let's talk about criticism now, because often criticism is labelled, and not only at guys like commentators, but also jockeys, trainers, and so forth. How do you cope with criticism?
Look, we're all entitled to a bad day, but we're not immune from the criticism, obviously, as you'd know. But for me, I mean, it goes in one year and out the other year. I don't really care.
There's a lot of social media on there, and there's a lot of trolling on social media and being nasty. I mean, that is what the age that we're living in now. That's why young juveniles are trying to. Well, in Australia, they've kept people under 16 completely away from social media, because it can actually harm a person individually. Correct. But it's important, I think, always to take note of what people are saying. Some people, just won't like you as an individual, or your commentaries, for example, and you're not going to be liked by everyone.
Correct.
But as long as you're doing a good job, which I think you're doing a great job, actually, then you etched in stone, and you can continue for many years to come. So you've got a lot of years ahead of you. But in talking about that, where do you see yourself ending up? I mean, obviously you'd like to call a lot more races, but are you pretty happy and Are you in your comfort zone at the moment?
At the moment, it's pretty easy going, and I'm quite happy where I am at the moment. Obviously, looking into the future as I get older, maybe a couple international stints wouldn't be too frowned upon by me.
Yeah, as you get older, as you say, when you can drift away from home more easily, and you want to search the skies. And Naqeeb, it's great having you in studio. We'll chat a bit later on, because coming up later on, I'd like Naqeeb's take on the objection status that we're going to talk about later, as well as the handicapping that's taken place with the 3-year-olds. But thanks very much for being in studio. We're going to go to the competition next. Just on last week's racing, for example, you commentated this last weekend. Any highlights for you?
Probably the feature race, the Tab National Currency Sprint, and the Bohemia Stakes. There were two of them. Green Diamond won really well. And Miami Mountain has come through to win the Tab National Currency Sprint, beating the favourite, Wild Justice, who hails from KZN. And also looking at our out-of-province runners in that race, they filled the second 3 boxes. So they really did well on the day. And then that first time of Tony Peters' Shivering Lights that won the first race, it won quite well. So looking forward to seeing where that goes.
Okay, and just for people out there that want to just stay in touch with you, you've got obviously social media. You're on Instagram, X. What are you on?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay,
just look me up, Naqeeb Munshi.
Naqeeb Munshi. Okay, Naqeeb will stay with us for the rest of the show, but great having him in studio. And stay tuned. The competition is coming up next. Well, it's competition time now, and the prize has reverted down to 500 Rand worth of 10-bet vouchers. Why? Well, last week, Cohen Greaves tipped 2 winners versus my 0 winners. Let's have a look at what he went for. He went for Inflame in race 4, which won. He then went for Rifle Queen in race 6, which did not win, in fact ran unplaced, and he went for Scarlet Heart in race 8, which won. My 3 horses, unfortunately, none of them won. Race 5 was African Prince, who actually ended up second. I tipped the Last Duke in race 7, which didn't arrive, and Matiyazo, I think, ended up running 3rd or 4th in the last race of the day. So Cohen, well done to you. You're the winner of our first prize that we've given away in the competition. We actually rolled it over for 5 weeks, so you won 2,500 Rand worth of 10-bet betting vouchers, and therefore Cohen unfortunately cannot re-enter this competition, but he's well on his way with his 10-bet account to start playing. I want to bring Naqeeb back in here. I feel a bit aggrieved, though. Excuse the pun for Cohen grieves, but I feel a bit aggrieved because Inflame won a 3-horse race,
yes.
but it was the luck of the draw. When the race first came out, it had 8 horses, and 5 was scratched, so he picked the best of the 3, but he started off on a good note.
Correct, and well done to Cohen Greaves. And it's quite a nice initiative that you got going here to bring people into betting with 10-bet.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is to try and see who is a good tipster out there. So
Exactly.
I've thrown it out there to all the potential gurus, the ones that say that they are excellent at this, to try and come forward and to try and beat me on a particular weekend's racing. But, so he had 2 winners. He won with Scarlet Heart as well. That won a good race too.
Very good. Came from a bit far back.
I think it was a bit of a lucky winner, actually.
Exactly. I mean, that race was a mess. There was a lot of traffic problems for a whole lot of horses.
Yeah. But you've got to be lucky in terms of competition, so well done to Cohen, and your prize will be on its way. Well, now it's time to find out what is this week's, or who this week's winner will be. So we put all the names in our 10-bet bag over here, and Naqeeb is going to be kind enough to help me out and draw out a winner. So there we go. Just put your hand in there, Naqeeb, and pull out a winner, and then just open it up and show the camera the name, or read out the name for us if you can first.
It is Ravens Grundling.
Ravens Grundling. Okay, well done to Ravens. He's a strong follower of the direct line, actually, as Ravens. So well done to him. Now, the question is, what will Ravens be tipping on? Which meeting? Well, what we've done is we've chosen 2 meetings for you, and the 2 meetings are Kenilworth and Scottsville. There's no racing in Joburg on the weekend, so Kenilworth is the big derby meeting on Saturday, and we've got Hollywood Bet Scottsville running on Sunday. I'm just going to lean down here, as you do, and put the 2 race courses that we've got. Where we're going to tip on is the next one, and Naqeeb will pull the relevant name out the hat, and then we will show that to you. So, Naqeeb, take that. Do your thing. Let us know what you've brought out there. Just open up and tell us, which meeting are we tipping on, please?
We'll be tipping on the Kenilworth meeting.
Which is great, because that is the big meeting on the weekend. It's on Saturday. It is the big race meeting out at Hollywood. It's Kenilworth. It's their last meeting of their summer season. It's the running of the Cape Derby, and looking forward to that. So let's just find out how many races there are on the day on Saturday. I'm just looking on my phone over here. Yes, there are 10 races. Now, we're tipping on the last 6 races of the day. So Ravens will tip on 3 races, and I'll tip on 3 races. But he'll either tip on 6, 8, and 10, or he'll tip on 5, 7, and 9. So what I'm going to do, Naqeeb, is I've got 2 cards over here. If I just lean across over here to pick them up, they've got 10-bet on the side, but they're odds and evens. So one's odds and one's even. So you're going to pick the one that Ravens is going to tip on. Is he going to tip on odds, or is he going to tip on evens? Is for you to pick. So which one is it? Is it this one, or is it that one?
I'm going to go
the one on my right, or the one on my left?
Your right. Go with your right.
My right. This one here? This is for Ravens.
Correct.
Eh? So Ravens tips on the even races of the last 3 even races. So Ravens, you'll tip on races 6, 8, and 10. And odds, which will be me, I'll tip on races 5, 7, and 9. And if you tie with me, Ravens, unfortunately, the money gets rolled over. You have to beat me. So if we finish tied on 0, or tied on 1, or tied on 2, or tied on 3 for that matter, then the money will roll over. You have to tip more winners than me on the day. So Ravens, good luck to you. You are tipping on the Kenilworth meeting, races 6, 8, and 10, and I will tip on races 5, 7, and 9. And that rounds up our competition section of the show. Stay with us. We're coming up with Nico's notebook in our last segment. Well, welcome back to our final segment. It's time for Nico's notebook, and let's just have a look at what I've written down here with regard to what we're going to discuss on the show. I'm glad Naqeeb Munshi has actually stayed with me, because the first one is objections. I always like talking about objections because it is pretty subjective at times, but that's why they constitute a board whenever they discuss an objection, and they decide on what they're going to do with regard to the infringement suffered by one horse versus another. And the reason why I'm bringing up the objection story again is because I, on last week's show, said that I'd watched the various angles of the trust objection, which was in the Gauteng Guineas, where they overturned the decision and put trust in third and demoted One Eye on Vegas to fourth. But actually, it reared its ugly head again on Monday this last week, because there was racing down at Hollywood Bet's Greyville. And I thought a worse scenario actually occurred in the fifth race on Monday afternoon, and yet that objection was overruled. And I thought it was if the objection, the previous objection that we talked about was upheld, then surely this one should also be upheld, and there's no consistency. Well, let's talk to Naqeeb about it, because he watched that very race. It was race 5 on Monday down in Durban, where Peggy Sue Shake clearly came across horses, and in so doing, St. Bridget, who was trying to come through, was badly impeded and only got beaten 0.55 of a length, so 0.05 more than what the incident was between Trust and One Eye in Vegas.
Yeah.
What is your take on the one on Monday?
So just want to touch on, there was an objection on the Thursday at Turfentine before that, and I spoke to Stipe after that race. It was between Battleground and Bellerophon. Bellerophon got promoted, obviously.
Yeah.
And what he said to me was that because Bellerophon was running on, it would have won the race if it didn't get interfered with.
Yeah.
That should apply to St. Bridget as well, because after the interference, he recovered quite a lot and only beaten by more, just over half a length. That should indicate that St. Bridget should have won the race.
Yeah. Look, so it's very, very tough to decide. So my whole problem with the one in the Guineas was that the difference in distance between them was half a length.
Yeah.
And One Eye in Vegas came from a good 7 or 8 lengths behind.
Yes.
Trust. So, it was the horse running on.
Correct.
Yet there was interference, but I don't think you can categorically say that the half a length between them would not have occurred had it not have been for the interference. So it's very tough to say that these two. Anyway, I did actually speak to V. Mudley, who's the chief executive of the NHA, about this and the next matter that we're going to talk about. And he told me, he said, Nico, that they hardly got any complaints about the Guineas objection. And I said maybe that was because Trust was promoted into a PA position. And he was the favourite.
Yes.
So therefore, sometimes, in fact, a lot of times, punters and racegoers would speak from their pocket when it comes to deciding on the outcomes of objections. I'm looking at this independently. I did not have a bet on the race. I watch a lot of races. And I'm saying, after looking at all the angles, that for me, in the Guineas race, you can't absolutely say with dead certainty that Trust would have beaten One Eye in Vegas had it not have been for that slight infringement. If it was a short head or head, maybe.
Correct.
Maybe. If it's half length, you can't say yes. So therefore, I disagree with that decision.
I have to agree with you, unfortunately, for the NHA. And obviously, speaking of the independence, that's why we have the NHA to officiate the meeting, because they're an independent board. And like you say, the punters would have been happy with the decision either way, even if it was incorrect, which I can't really comment on. But I think I have to agree with you, though.
So going back to Monday's incident, what I'm saying is be consistent. What I'm saying is if you decided on that the Monday objection should also have been upheld.
Agreed.
In which case, the second horse would have ended up winning the race. That was Keegan de Mello's ride, Oh My Gucci Girl, because it wasn't part of the infringement.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have seen objections like that. At the Vaal the one day, I think one horse ran second, the other one ran fourth as a result of interference, and they wrapped that whole result right around. So it's not impossible to do.
Absolutely. Well, the other issue that we're going to speak about are the merit ratings. Now, horses are given ratings by official handicappers. And what's happened now, since the 7th of February, is all the 3-year-old ratings in Johannesburg have been thrown completely out the water because there's been a lot of disagreement as to who to use as the line horses in the Guineas. So what eventually happened was an appeal was lodged by guys that we've had on the show. The team representing de Kock Racing, Mike and Matthew de Kock, said they weren't happy with the ratings of either Split the Eights or, for that matter, One Eye on Vegas after they rated the race using Tin Pan Alley as the line horse. What happened then was at their appeal, the appeal was upheld and all the ratings were changed. But not part of that appeal was the infamous or famous Trust, because he wasn't included in either in any of the merit rating adjustments. So therefore, the trainers of Trust, Candice and Tammy Dawson, lodged a further appeal against the rating of Trust. And this was the official release that came out last Friday. An independent panel constituted in terms of clauses 20.3 and 21.3 of the Constitution and consisting of Messrs. Robert Bloomberg, Colin Gordon and David Thistleton was convened on the 20th of February to consider a merit rating appeal lodged by trainer Miss Candice Dawson against the retained 119 merit rating of Trust following his performance in the TAB Gauteng Guineas. On the 17th of February, an independent appeal board in a separate appeal brought by trainer Matthew de Kock and which included trainer Sean Tarry adjusted the merit ratings of the following horses which had participated in the Gauteng Guineas, namely Split the Eights from 121, who it was rated, was brought down back to 109. Grand Empire, who Sean Tarry trains, 120 to 108. One Eye on Vegas from 118 to 106. And Yippee Kaye, who ran 5th, from 117 to 105. So those were all adjusted because they are trained by either trainers de Kock or Tarry. But the horse that ran 3rd was Trust, who was rated 119. And because those had come down, the trainer of the 3rd horse now said, well, surely with those have come down, I also need to appeal because mine will come down as well. Mine was 119. And it all gets a bit sticky now because now we're now expecting Tin Pan. Are we now expecting Sean Tarry to come back for Tin Pan Alley?
I wouldn't put it past them. I mean, they've set a precedent now, and maybe it did need to get done. Obviously, the handicappers have been subject to scrutiny for many years now, and it is glad to see that trainers are taking standing firm in what they believe in. But I don't know if it's right, you know.
Well, it's very tough because handicapping, as I said, is a subjective matter, and it depends on what you use as the line horse. But now what's happened is that it's been brought down now from 119 to 109, I think it is.
Which 107. One is that? Which
107,
one is that?
Trust.
Trust. Okay.
Trust comes down now to fall into line with the others, so it comes down to a 107. But in concluding, it's interesting for this part, the appeal board panel stated that in all probability and based on the performance of, in particular, Jan van Gooyen in the upcoming South African Classic, which runs on the 7th of March, where a number of these horses would be meeting again at level weights, that the handicappers would obviously be reassessing and readjusting merit ratings. The appeal panel added that whilst it is perfectly conceivable that these horses will ultimately attain the higher ratings allocated by the handicappers, that they are bound to rate horses purely on merit rating attained and not based on perception or in fear of losing graded status. The appeal panel further made the recommendation that following the running of the SA Classic, that the handicappers re-evaluate the entire 3-year-old crop. The appeal was accordingly upheld and the deposit fee to be refunded to trainer Miss Candice Dawson. So after speaking to V. Mudley again, the CEO of the NHA, about this whole matter, and I invited him to come onto the podcast, which he is really happy to do, but he said that the period whereby people can appeal their ratings is not concluded yet. So if Tin Pan Alley's trainer Sean Tarry decides to appeal that rating, then he can do so currently. But I thought after chatting to V and giving him some breathing space, that possibly, Naqeeb, it would be better, as this appeal panel has said, to rather delay this whole discussion until the SA Classic is run, where we see the return of Jan van Gooyen. So possibly sometime in March, we can have a re-look at things. Correct.
And obviously, Jan van Gooyen has met a lot of the horses that were in the Guineas, and he's thrashed them. So we have to obviously wait for him to come out. I think he'll run well in the Classic, just by the way.
He ran badly in Cape Town, but there were several reasons for that.
Correct.
And you could see that trainer Mike de Kock was unhappy with his performance in the Lomerans Kings Plate. So he is coming back to Joburg, his home base, and I expect him to run really well in that classic. And I think he is going to be the likely favourite on the day.
And if we're looking back on recent meetings that we've had, race meetings that we've had, horses that come from Cape Town, horses that are coming back from contesting in Cape Town back to Joburg are really flying at the moment.
Absolutely. Well, Green Diamonds, a case
Correct.
in point.
Buffalo Storm Cody.
Yeah. So they've run against the best in Cape Town. They're coming back to Joburg to strut their stuff. Well, it's the end of the show, and I wanted to thank Naqeeb again for joining me. It's been a great pleasure hosting you, and I hope you won't be any stranger to us over here, and that you can participate again soon. Yeah. Obviously, looking forward to the big race that we've coming up, and also exciting because it's Naqeeb's idea that we're going to commentate a race together.
Yes,
actually. And when is that happening?
I think it's the one on the 4th of April, the big meeting on the 4th of April, Champions Day. I think it'll be the Caradoc Gold Cup.
Yeah.
I was busy doing the calculations last night to see how many meters we're each going to do.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But
so
we'll talk about that later.
What we're doing is it's a 2,850 meter race. So we're sharing the race whereby we call a quarter. And we're going to have 2 microphones and just have a bit of fun in the commentary box. So looking forward to that.
100%.
All the best, Naqeeb. Thanks very much for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
And that is it for another edition of The Direct Line, powered by 10Bet. Just remember, if you want to enter that competition, I didn't remind you, all you have to do is send your name and your phone number in through to our email address. It's the Direct Line SA, one word, @gmail.com. So use the email, the Direct Line SA @gmail.com to enter our competition. Costs you nothing, and you can be a winner here on our show, sponsored by 10Bet. From all of us here at the studios, until next time, bye-bye.